welcome to this week's Madaxeman podcast. This week there are 6 of us, as Pete's got called away on domestic duties, so that does make things rattle along a little bit quicker. No offence to Peter intended. And this time we talk about the Nikephorian Byzantine army in Art de la Guerre. We talk about our painting. There's a bit of a longer chat on Tabletop Simulator, the new online way of playing games that we've all discovered. And we bring in a new feature, which is Teaching Timmy About Napoleonics, in which I attempt to learn from the gang of 5 this week how the Napoleonic Wars actually worked and what it was all about. Finally, Andy's quiz, of course, makes a reappearance, so look out for that music. Sit back, enjoy the podcast, and enjoy your painting.
This means war.
Okay, and welcome to number 10 of the Lockdown podcasts. We've got a slightly, I was going to say slimmed down crew here, but reduced in number is probably more politically correct, and slightly less rude to Peter, who's ended up doing domestic duties of some sort this evening. So he's not here, so we've only got 6 people to entertain you and keep the chat going. As is traditional, we'll start the week's podcast with that classic question of what have you been painting this week? And I think my top left corner is Simon with your druids behind you, who I think we talked about last week briefly. But what's been happening in your, was it Swedish 7 Years' War world?
Yeah, so I've achieved a grand total of 1 unit of painting this week.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, so it's been a slow week, but I've got my first unit. So it's 3 bases of Swedish grenadiers. So I've been trying to work out how to get their yellows and all that. And they're now based up and just need to flock them.
So was that a time when grenadiers were still throwing grenades, or are they just people with different hats?
Apparently they did throw grenades as well. So I've seen a few images of these guys running around with a grenade. So they got grenades and big rifles and a regimental gun. So they look quite cute.
Okay, so
that's how they got their elite status, because throwing grenades was even more hazardous in the 17th and 18th centuries than it is today.
It depends how far you throw them, I guess, really. But that's probably the key determinant. So how are the figures kind of panning out? Are you still chuffed with them? Are they still ticking the boxes, or are you suddenly looking at an acre of these sort of things and going, oh, why did I start?
No, they're quite nice. So when you first look at the QRF or the free core miniatures, it's a little bit hard to spot the detail. But once you, especially once you give them a wash, like so, I use the Army Painter, the little dippy wash, not the big tin one. It gets into the cracks, and then a lot of the detail starts popping out. So I know it's not the scientific term, but they're fancy big bear hats they wear. You know, the big.
Miters?
That's the one, miters. When you first look at it, you can't see the detail, but when you give them a nice wash, you can start picking out all the attempt at an emblem and things like that. And their lace, the belts and the coat and all that. All the detail starts coming out, so it's quite good. Just trying to do yellow is a pig. So I'm trying to do Swedish
colour, isn't it? Yeah. And what paint are you using for yellow? Because I've got like 3 or 4 that never really work.
Strong, they're too weedy.
Yeah, they just get too washed out. What's your secret? If you've not got a secret, what are you attempting to do?
So
I'm asking you this before we ask Tamsin for the real answer, just to straighten this out a bit. But
so what I've done is I've been using primarily Vallejo yellow to give that a go, but I did cheat and I deferred to our learned expert Tamsin, and I've been asking Tamsin all week how to make some better color yellow. So Tamsin, over to you.
Yeah, because based on what Simon was saying that he had, to get it's a saffron yellow, but the Swedish sort of cuffs and underclothes.
Yeah,
and it's not a bright yellow. I think if I was going with it, I'd probably use Vallejo model color tan yellow, because it's a slightly creamier brownish yellow. But with what Simon had, I suggested using the yellow mixed with a bit of brown and some white to bring it down.
Yeah, and that's worked quite well. So the first one I tried, ignored Tamsin's expertise and went and read some website about how to mix saffron yellow, and they said mix yellow and orange, so it came out orange.
Orange,
So
yeah,
that was,
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a fail. So I went back to the learned expert, and lo and behold, the saffron or more mustardy yellow came out where it had that more slightly deeper color to it. And then with the army painter wash, it came out all right.
Is there something technical about yellow paint just doesn't have?
Plague brown would do it. Yeah.
Plague brown.
Okay.
What was that one?
Cascade color plague brown. Really, really good.
If I could get to a wargaming store, I'd probably buy some.
Cascade
Does
color.
really well.
Cascade.
Hold
colour.
it to tell you rather than wave it around.
It's like a fillet. It was basically, I think it's basically a fillet show. Is that right, Tamsin?
You need to hold
Can't
it
see,
to
Dave.
your
It's
right
not in
game.
front of the screen.
Bit more in front of you. No, a bit more.
Left a bit, right a bit.
Pull back.
You know, I know we did blankety blank. This
Vallejo
is a
game
golden
colour,
shot.
so it's plague brown. Yeah.
Okay.
The game colour, yeah, it is Vallejo, and from what I remember, sort of the game colour paints are somewhat thicker and possibly have more pigment in
Okay.
than the model colour.
And is that plague brown actually is a yellow with one of these fancy names? Is that basically it?
It's tan yellow.
It is tan yellow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I use
Okay.
a lot of it.
Might have a try. But coming back to Tim, what you're saying about yellow, it is a pig.
Oh, it's a nightmare. No, because I've got army painted demonic yellow, which is just a bit hapless, and I've ended up, mixing it with bleach bone and all other sorts of things. But the thing I'd not thought, all of them make it a bit darker and a bit more mustardy, but whether actually adding some white back in actually brings it back up. That's the bit I'd not really thought about before.
Whites will tend to desaturate it, make it more pastel. But
Right.
the best thing to do with yellows is have a different colour undercoat, sort of brown, or I have heard depending on what end result you want, a brown, and I've actually heard people suggesting using pink.
Pink as an undercoat. What, like
Yeah.
flesh pink or shocking pink?
I guess you could use flesh pink, but
Wow.
I've just been using white because that's the
I
the
just
one
always
Canada
thought white
army
will make
painter
it really
white I
really
use.
ping out.
Yeah.
If I ever have to paint yellow, I tend to do a layer of sand colour first.
Yeah.
It sort of like gives it something to go onto because it sort of like lightens it up.
Something like yellow ochre, sand yellow, anything like that. It's good.
Okay, I've got a lot of sand yellow.
Oranges, reds.
Yeah.
Yeah, buff. Yeah,
Buff.
I was
Okay.
thinking buff as well, but all right, I'll try that because I've got some
Yeah.
more grenadiers to
Yeah,
paint up.
because
So.
I'd always just gone with that sort of assumption of it's going to be thin, so do as white an undercoat as possible,
Yeah.
and then do a couple of layers and then slightly get disappointed. But the idea of doing, and then I ended up mixing it with the tan sort of paint. But yeah, actually doing an undercoat that's got a slight pigment to it, and then putting the yellow onto it. Like
Ooh.
Dave's just waving some samurai banners at us, which look
They're very
really, really
nice.
sharp. Actually, that's a
Yeah.
really good yellow. That's really worked well.
Well, that's Vallejo flat yellow. It's actually marked flat yellow, but I leave it upside down in my.
Yeah, I think it's one of those paints that needs to be left upside down, isn't it? Very
It's
definitely.
does it?
around
Never
it's
tried that.
upside down.
Oh, I know. There's some of my paints that just live upside down because you just want to
Yeah.
get that pigment. Otherwise, it all just sinks to the bottom. Even with little steel ball bearings in it, just you almost want to kind of make them with extra pigment and drain some of the other stuff out.
Well, speaking of ball bearings, so just as we were going to lockdown, Dave recommended some those ball bearings. Ordered them. They arrived that evening. Probably threw the bag out into the recycling bin, didn't I?
Oh, they're just too small. Just too small.
Because they were just in that little plastic
Baggie.
bag, like a druggie bag, and I put it down the table, and my replacement were due last on the 14th of May, so still haven't seen anything, so I might see them next week. So complete fail. So I've had the decal fail, and now I've had the ball bearing fail.
Oh, dear. Yeah. So you got wrong size decals and you threw your balls away in the in the trash. Wow, what a nightmare! Oh, disaster. So you've done one unit of grenadiers. Is that just you focused on one unit, or have you been doing some prep across the base of the army?
Primarily just focusing on one unit. So it's been one of those weeks. So I've only had the brain space to sit down and just focus on one unit.
Right.
Crack
Okay.
get the get that prototype working. It's like, okay, this is going to work for the other 4 units and all the mounted and all that.
The rest
Then
of the
I
army.
can start rolling it out.
Okay. And then Tamsin, given we've you spent your week just answering technical queries from Simon on an off podcast way, which is slightly cheating, I feel, but at least we managed to drag the conversation back to it and get some content out of it this week, rather than it just happening without being recorded, in which case it's not really true. So what have you been focusing on this week, having finished that classic Perry army?
Well, if I move out of the way so you can see.
It's more of your barrels and fire hydrants.
The scattered terrain that I said I was working on last week. So I've got filled up pretty much an A4 boards.
Wow, that's a lot of scatter. And that looks like most of it looks like it's boxes of military equipment.
Boxes of all sorts of boxes. There's a couple of crates with rifles, fruit, veg, and fish.
Okay.
Barrels, oil drums, and some fire hydrants.
And who makes that
sort of thing to have a gunfight in a warehouse type thing?
Yeah, the fire hydrants, oil drums, and trash cans were Fenris Games, and everything else was Ainsty.
Good. Our guy Ainsty. Yeah. It does look like a lot of fire hydrants. I'm counting about a dozen or something like that. So
yeah, a dozen.
So Mega City 1 is never going to burn down then? There's going to be a fire hydrant on every corner.
No, they're actually for my Salutesville project. My pulp gaming.
Okay then.
Right. Gaming one.
So lots of them will get knocked over by 1920s style cars and
actually a fire hydrant would be a good thing to have in an Anglo-Saxon village for when the Vikings turn up.
Come on, Andy. What's the punchline?
No, it's just occurred to me as a terrain, funky terrain piece, for an army base. If you did an Anglo-Saxon village, you could have a fire hydrant, so put the fires out when the Vikings turn up.
Sorry, I was expecting some complicated punchline there. I think there's 5 people just going, "Where's the gag? Where's the gag?" Okay, all right. And that looks a good red for that fire hydrant. You look like you've done some good solid. Some good solid colouring on that one. What's the fire hydrant red? Because it looks like it's got a real shine to it.
Oh, it started off with an airbrushing. I think it was German red brown mixed with scarlet to get base, or it might have been whole red and scarlet to get the undercoat. Then successive layers of dry brushing with flat red and then vermilion.
Okay, so it's just a lot of dry brushing to give it a real ping. Dry
brushing and a little bit of layering.
Okay. And is this project now done, or is this something that's going to come up for next week?
That's done. I've got some sci-fi scattered terrain on the table at the moment. I've sort of primed and sort of done initial highlighting on. And today I've been assembling all the Judge Dredd miniatures.
Oh, there's the bikes and other perps and things like that.
Yep. So
it's World of Dredd, staying at 28mm. Okay.
Right. Not really. It's not going to focus.
Bit tricky on a video camera, I think, that one.
Yeah.
Figures with belly wheels.
Yes, the fatties.
Excellent. We like that idea.
Okay.
Always like the fatties.
No. Yeah. Okay. And then the bikes and things like that. That's good. Okay. So then, if we go around the screen, Andy, you appear to be outside the House of Commons on your Zoom background today. That's partly outside the House of Commons and still partly in your kitchen. I think that must be your iPad green screen thing, not quite working properly.
No, at least I got something of a background, which is better than nothing. It was meant to be the Viking ship outside the Houses of Commons.
So so has it been still the Danes and the Saxons and things this week, or?
Yeah, I've actually finished painting them, and I'm just waiting for the base to dry. Then I'll sort of flock it, and then that's that whole project done. So now I've got to think of something else to do.
So do you have anything waiting in the wings, or are we going to come up with something for you?
Well, no. I mean, before you send me off to paint a Chinese army, which I haven't got, I think the next thing is I've got a pack of those phalangites, but I probably have to wait till the weekend till I can muck about with the drill, because I've got a vise for it now, and then drill the hands for that, and then I'll paint them. And then I've got some late Roman legionaries to finish off that army, and then that's all the Kickstarter stuff done. The Irish arrived with their wolfhounds.
Ah, okay. Those 28mm plastic ones,
Yeah.
yeah.
So at some stage you've got to stick them together. That might be the next project. Or I'm thinking I might go completely off topic and paint some Italian planes and or ships I've got for World War II.
For that Cruel Seas thing, is that? Or
No. This is
something different.
This is for kind of multi-convoy type thing. These are 1/2400 scale ships.
All right. Well, look, I think, it'd be interesting to get your views maybe next week on those Atlantic Irish, because that's a new box, isn't it? And there's so many Dark Age 28mm manufacturers and some brilliant ones.
Well, I'll do that next. I'll try and stick some of them together and paint a few and see what I think.
Interesting to see how they all fit together and how they might fit together with some of all the other ones. Okay.
Yeah,
right,
you need to get a lot of right hands for them, so you've got a fair amount of selection of weaponry.
All right. Lots of spares and bits and pieces then. Good.
Yeah.
This means war.
So Dave, what about you? You waved a samurai banner at us a while ago. What's in your painting bunker then, as we speak?
The samurai are, I would say, finished, with a proviso that I've put the sand onto the command base, so that just needs paint applying to it. So
those banners are they? So those images on the banners, they're the not LBMS, they're the Veni Vidi Vici ones, are they?
Yeah, they're Veni Vidi Vici. So that's Takeda Shingen's army.
Bossman looks like he's sitting on the loo.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's sat there on his seat. His horse is down here, ready for him to gallop off into action when I want to commit him. So they've been fun. That's finished. The 4 heavy infantry are done. I think I put too many banners. They've all got a huge bloody banner on them.
I don't think you can put too many banners in samurai armies.
No, the more banners, the better. You've seen my samurai. Everyone's got a banner.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of banners in this army.
Yeah.
So that they're all done. I think actually there's 2 bases of monks, which I'll do at some point, but they're not necessarily the army. That's that done. Oh, I've got your light horse you sent me through the post.
Oh, good. Yep, the extra light horse for that army.
Need to paint them up at some point.
Yeah.
That's completed. I'm just finishing off a couple of bases of Scythian foot archers, bowmen, because a couple of bases of bowmen will be useful.
Is that something you forgot to paint when you did the Kickstarter earlier, or is it just...
well, the Kickstarter's all done. I mean, there's more than enough for a complete army, but I just thought I might as well do the bowmen as an option.
And you just happen to have them lying around?
Yeah, they were from the Kickstarter, but it's just...
All right, okay.
Bits and pieces to finish off with. Waiting for the Egyptians to arrive. They've been dispatched.
Ooh.
Got marks to Ian, very quick. Thorough service.
No, that is really quick. He's redoing the website as well at the moment, isn't he? With
Is he?
Yeah, I think there's a new website being put up as well. So I'm surprised he's got time to do casting.
It's all this publicity we're giving him.
Yeah, it could be it. Yeah. Both the people listening, maybe one of them has placed an order. That could be it. He's overwhelmed. That could be frightening.
So no, I mean, I've painted up the bases, the trial bases I got from him. Looking forward to getting. I've ordered 4 chariots just to sort of see which ones are which and how they fit on bases and things like that.
Yeah, I think if I remember, it's a long time ago since I did mine, but there's a lot of like bending the is it the yoke, the kind of the stick that goes up to the 2 horses. If you bend it into kind of an S shape, you can just about fit them on a 40x40.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it is just too long, and you need to think about either cutting it or going 50x40 or something.
No, I'm waiting for that to be an issue, but I'll cross that Rubicon when it gets there.
Yeah, that Egyptian Rubicon.
Mixing up the chariots. I might even use some Syrian chariots. Let's see what the Egyptian ones look like first.
With my Hebrew army, what I've done with the chariots, because some of them are meant to be occasionally allied, is I've just got different flags, depending on whether they're Hebrew or allied, and different shaped flags depending on whether they're heavy or light chariots. Because the models are all the same. Yeah. But you can just show the different types of units by the flags.
Yeah, I think for some of my, occasionally you get heavy chariots, and I don't know whether there's a way of doing that with giving them more chariot runners, maybe. I don't think it's historical, but it's just a way of differentiating 2-horse chariots from other ones and having a couple of the little javelin mini guys on the base. to run alongside, because they all had chariot runners and nobody really knows what they were, but as a way to say the ones with chariot runners are heavy, or the ones who've got red and white stripy hats are heavy, or something like that. You know, there's different ways.
They go faster stripes, yeah.
Go faster stripes down the side. Different ways of doing it.
Well, I think on a 40mm base, you might have difficulty fitting everything in, I suspect.
Yes, yeah. But you know, cram them in. They're not. I don't think those horses are that bulky. You can definitely still get a runner either side if you wanted. It's not too difficult.
No, okay. Maybe. Okay.
All right. Well, I think Adam is painting away. So before we come to Adam to round up this bit, I think this week for me has been about making a real dent in those Hungarians. I know we talked about it. I think, Adam, you actually asked me last week how long I thought it would take. And
6 to 8 weeks, you said.
6 to 8 weeks. And I think I'm now bringing that number down, actually.
Good lad.
Which, so I did a thing that I don't, normally, I think I said I hate painting horses because there's so many straps to do. And I think that's partly how I've always tried to base stuff before I base it and then undercoat it. And this is my first, other than the 10mm French, this is my first 15mm army with lolly sticks and using 4 horses on a lolly stick. And I just found having that and being able to pick that thing up made painting the straps so much easier. Being able to turn the damn horse round, which is a ridiculous thing to have learned after 30 years or something, but or maybe more. But it just made it seem so much more achievable. And then I've really worked on the horses with getting some different colours into them, those different coat d'arms horse colours, and trying to do that bit with the legs, the bottom of the legs being darker. I've not put the blazes and things onto the horses yet, but I have now. I just said I'm not even going to touch the riders or anything until I've got all the horses done. So I did all the horses, based them all up, did all the straps, put a load of different washes on them using the army painter dark wash on the lower part of the body and a lighter sort of, not watered down, but watered down using army painter thinner, or whatever it's called, medium, to water down the top ones, just to really have this huge achievement of horses. And I'm now sat here looking at, I think it's wherever it is, I'm now sat here looking at 7x4, which is 28 bases of 2 and 3 to a base horses. And I've even gone, which I've been too lazy to do with a lot of stuff. I've actually got some wood filler and I've built up the bases before. I'm going to do them with the sand and the wood stain and the dry brush, but I've actually built up the bases to cover the little metal bases on the horses, so that I can just do a more even layer of sand. Because I think for a lot of stuff recently, I've just stuck the sand on and then tried to hide the metal base of the figure with static grass. But these ones, I thought, because I'm doing it and it actually looks all right. But the weirdest bit is actually doing the riders and realizing that Essex are actually really quite good. Because these Hungarian figures, there's maybe not quite enough variety, but I think there's 4 or 5 different packets that I've got that I'm just all mixing up because it's just kind of generic Hungarian horse. But they're super simple figures to paint. They all seem to be wearing a long coat, which is great. There's not too many belts and other things around them. So they're wearing a long coat. Their trousers are a different colour. There's not too many other kind of complicated bits to it. So I've actually this weekend made a much bigger dent than I thought I would do in the riders. And the great thing, one of the other great things about these riders is they don't necessarily appear to have a belt around their coat. And I always find just doing that tiny little belt is such a steady hand thing when you're close to it. So I think these Hungarians could be done in another, if not by this time next week, but certainly by this time the week after. And it's only really a question, well, certainly the mounted would be. I don't think the foot will take that long. And I just need to look at whether I need to get a few more, or I should get a few more gendarme type knight cavalry, heavy knight people to go with it. Because I've only got 4 of those, and I think the army list has 6, and they're quite distinctive. with shields and stuff. They're quite distinctive East European look. So, I might put in my first order to Essex in as long as I can remember. It's just kind of a very weird thing to go. Nice, simple to paint, solid figures that just get done quite quickly.
Looked at the bowmen then yet, have you?
Yeah, the bowmen, I have squinted at those infantry bowmen, and they look a little bit all over the shop. I can't even work out what they're wearing.
They've got all sorts of plumes and stuff. They're quite a complicated figure. They're quite a nice figure.
Yeah, I was trying to work out those Hungarian bowmen. Are they wearing like some sort of padded body armor or something around the middle? Or
remember, there's a lot on them. They're exactly out of the WRG book. They're actually like almost identical.
Okay, because the infantry spearmen look, even though there's two different lengths of spear, they look really simple.
I've not looked at the spearmen. I bought some of the Hungarian bowmen to use for my Hussite army for the light.
Right. Yeah, they're a bit skinny. They're a bit of an odd mess, really, the bowmen. But I think there's not that many bowmen, because I thought it would be an army that would have rear rank shooters, but it isn't, is it? It's it just blocks a spearman and then a couple of units of bow. So I think,
bow, isn't it?
Yeah, there's just some foot bow. So I think I've got enough for those. I've just got to steal it. But I think these cavalry could be done, and I've kind of gone with a palette of green and red and white as much as I can, to give them kind of a Hungarian vibe. And I'm just about to try printing off loads and loads of little shield stickers to see if not stickers, but little shield patterns on white paper to see whether I can actually make that theory work, and as well as all the banners as well. And I think it'll be an army with a lot of banners on it.
Yeah.
So,
You're going to try and do some of the tiger coats on the hussars?
I'm not sure, because the army has Serbian, the elite Serbian hussars, doesn't it, in it? But I think the tiger coat, isn't that like a later thing?
Yeah, but I know some people do the or the Hungarian nobles. They put the tiger ones on those just because they can. So.
Yeah, I think if it's people who do it just because they can, that probably means I can't.
Okay.
It may be beyond me, but the nobles look very much like proper gendarme figures, but with a slight East European kind of tinge to it. But
was the later army called the Black Army because they wore blackened armor? Is that a thing, or was that?
They were definitely called the Black Army. They were definitely called the Black Army, but wasn't it
Corvinus?
Yeah, Matthew Corvinus. But Corvinus is the crow, and his coat of arms is a crow. So there may have been a kind of a black thing there. But I think if you get
if cheating, so I'm looking at the army book. So his son Matthias Corvinus reigned from 1458 to 1490. He also raised an army of mercenaries called the Black Army, who defeated the Turks at the Battle of Bedfield.
Right.
And also, wasn't Corvinus also in some of the underworld vampire movies?
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying I need to paint him up as Wesley Snipes? Is that it?
Or
Kate Beckinsale.
Kate Beckinsale, yes, definitely with the tight leather pants.
I need to paint him as Kate Beckinsale. Right, okay.
Corvinus was Bill Nye in the films.
Yeah. Oh.
Wasn't there some guy who had a base where every time he threw a wand, he would crucify his dice in his Hungarian?
Wasn't that a Moldovan army or something?
Yeah, he would drill a hole in the dice and put it on a spike on his cap.
Impale it.
Wow.
Every time you threw one, you get through a lot of dice, and you'd have a lot of spikes.
If Clive did that, we'd have a big pile of dice.
Wallachian or Transylvanian army?
Yeah, that's it. It must have been Dracula army.
It's got to be one of
I don't
those.
know who it was, but I heard about the story.
It's got one of those. Then I actually did the weird thing of, well, we'll talk about it in a minute, but I did the weird thing of actually playing with the army online as well, which was kind of weird. But yeah, so I'm now staring at a whole horde of colourful-ish horses ready to have banners and shields and stuff on it. And that's really taken up all the time. There's been bizarrely, no distraction projects this week at all. It's even some, I think I've got some of those weird Balkan, Ottoman javelinman people that I picked up from Baueda, one of their ranges before they started doing lots of foot ranges to be like javelinmen for a Ottoman army. And even they haven't tempted me. I've just been, oh my God, I can actually do horses properly. Let's focus on that. So that's been my thing.
This means war.
looks like you're literally making tanks as we speak. What about you?
At the moment, making tanks, but I spent all week painting those Mongol step foot figures, which I'm quite pleased because there was 24, and I've got them all done. I put the slop, what's it called?
Army
the
painter.
slop, yes, the army painter slop on
Yeah.
today, which for me is actually quite fast. So that was quite pleasing. Sticking them together, the box from Fireforge is quite interesting because you get 24, and there's 3 different troop types. You get bows, you get chaps with small round shields, and you get chaps with big wicker shields, almost like Sparrow Barra. But the box they come with sort of like legs, body, separate head, separate body, separate head, separate arms, and you stick them all together in the poses you want. And it's all done quite well, and it's well done, apart from, and I've never really done plastic figures before, trying to match up chaps with bows with the right angled body, because you want this different angle to people that are walking forwards with spears. So you had to be kind of careful what body you gave what arms and what weapons. Otherwise you'd have someone trying to shoot a bow and his legs would be pointing off in the wrong direction. But
okay. Yeah, because normally most of the other ones I've seen have got the torso and the legs together, and then certainly the Perry ones, the torso and the legs are a single piece, and you get a separate head and then separate arms, and then gripping beast.
It's got torso and legs.
Torso, legs, and sometimes an arm, isn't it? I think the archers from Gripping Beast, the arm comes with it. It's just part of the torso. Certainly the Romans. I think. So is it possible with those 24 to make, do you have to make like 8, 8 and 8, or can you?
No, there's loads of bits in there. Right. So you can more or less do and I did do 8, 8 and 8 because it's for Saga and they were all different. There's loads of bits in there. But so you could sort of like do them all spear or all bow or all sword, apart from some of the torsos and the way they were twisting with sort of like, because bowmen you tend to want side on, and people's spears not so much side on. So you could, and some of the bowmen, for instance, I did to get. I actually got 12 bow and 12 of the other ones, but I had to do some walking forward, holding their bow quite rigidly in their arm rather than reloading or something, which was. But they're okay. They were good. And I would recommend them. But I've got them all done. Because the other thing I realised is last week you said that at the moment we've got more time for painting. I've realised at the moment I've got less time for painting.
Right.
Because it's, even though I'm furloughed, so I'm at home all day, I'm doing childcare all day, so I can't really paint. And then where I've got 2 kids that don't go to school, bedtime's just kind of gone out the window.
Oh,
so
tricky, yeah.
I can only paint in the evening, and the evening is a lot shorter than it used to be before the lockdown. So I'm actually painting. I've got less time to paint, which is vaguely annoying.
Oh, that's frustrating. Nightmare. Oh, well. Yeah, well, I guess, but you did a couple of weeks ago that you dragooned the kids into doing some of your painting for you, hadn't you? So has that run out?
Painting for them. Well, no, painting for them, and they're still doing them, and they're going to be playing games with them. But it's my standard of painting isn't great, but it's still slightly better than
better than your small kids. Okay. All right. Well, look, that's a good roundup then. We've all got on with something. We've done 28mm, 15mm scenery, ancients, Dark Ages, all the rest of it. But whatever it was that Simon's War or Spanish Succession, 7 Years War, something.
7 Years War.
So there's been all sorts of things going on then.
This means war.
Right, so what do we have next? I attempt to do our new thing. I'm going to try and find a new bit of music for this, which will work.
1812?
I don't know. Look, we'll ask that, Chris. Yes. See if I can get a copy of that. Right, so this is a new feature then, which we're experimenting on. It's going to be a learning experience in every sense of that phrase. So, as I'm sure you remember, or if you're a new listener, please go back and listen to some from a while ago. This epic 10mm Napoleonic army that I cobbled together because it was an entirely different scale to anything anyone else in the club had, and that's the law with Napoleonic, to play, we'll try and play Battle Empire. So and this is my first ever Napoleonic set of troops of any shape or form whatsoever. And with all the different bits of history, I've done ancients, I've done Renaissance, I've done World War II, World War modern stuff, ultra modern, even bits and bobs of sci-fi, Dark Ages, but the Napoleonic American Civil War, definitely. Just look at some of the other stuff around the room, but other things as well. But Napoleonics is just that big legendary period that's kind of passed me by somehow through sheer bloody mindedness most of the time in my wargaming career. But now there's a set of rules that people may well play. I've got some 10mm figures which are quite cute. I'm pretending that I'm not going to buy the British or the Austrians or any other country just yet until I've done 2 more other armies after these Hungarians. But it struck me that I actually know nothing at all, literally nothing at all about Napoleonic Wars, other than I think one side wore blue and the other side wore red, and Sean Bean says bastard a lot in a northern accent in Spain somewhere. And I think that the Spain bit, there is the book Jonathan Norrell and Mr. Strange, is it?
That's a good book.
Which is a great that fantasy book. So that I think is my sum total of historical knowledge of Napoleonic Wars. But I think we've got some people on this podcast who undoubtedly know more than me, even though it's setting a fairly low bar, to be honest. But we're going to try and see if I can be educated in this new feature in a series of weekly episodes, which, if there's any value to it, we might even carve out and release as a standalone set as well at some point, of trying to learn what the hell the Napoleonic Wars was about from ground zero. And I suspect there's going to be quite a lot of Andy in this one, and quite a bit of Dave, and possibly a bit of Simon as well, possibly in that order. No, maybe not. And just to start with then, making the entirely correct assumption that I know absolutely nothing. Napoleonic Wars, was it just like some short French bloke got out of bed one day and said, let's have a go at invading Europe, and then it all kind of kicked off? When did it start? Why did it start? What was the build up to war that suddenly turned all this thing in?
Wasn't it England tried to call Greggs a patisserie, and so he decided to start a fight?
That's that's the Australian version of history, Simon. The received version in these parts of the world is a slightly different story. According to an author I read a little while ago, the most important event of the 18th century was that a French officer called Villiers de Jumonville got his head smashed in by a bloke with a tomahawk in 1754, and through a series of causation that ultimately led to the American Revolution and then to the French Revolution. The French Revolution started roughly, to some idea, a bit like the English Civil War, in the king ran out of money and the Parliament said, unless you change your ways, we're not going to give you any more. And the king threw a hissy fit, and there was ultimately an overthrow of government. The monarchies of France thought of Europe thought this is not a good idea, because if other people think they can get rid of their monarchs, they might try it on us, so we better put this down, and invaded France. That was the start of the Revolutionary Wars.
So in terms of my historical thing, because that's something I've not even really clocked, so the Napoleonic Wars started fairly soon after the events in the film Carry On, Don't Lose Your Head.
Even at the same time, that's right, yes.
In which Sid James was
although there's a careful there, it's not yet the Napoleonic Wars.
It's a Revolutionary War.
You're in the Revolutionary Wars at the moment. It's not Napoleonic yet, because the man with the hat hasn't turned up yet.
Right, so there's Sid James,
but not as a leader.
So there's Sid James running around France with the black spot or something like that, and Hattie Jakes is probably involved. and there's the guillotine, and all those people who are going to do that really successful musical that is just kind of miserable, and it's got things in barricades. And it
No,
looks,
no, you get your timelines a bit mixed
my
up.
timeline's gone
That
wrong,
will
is it?
happen
Yeah.
a bit later. But so
so we've got
you've
people
got the
getting their heads
Revolutionary
cut.
Wars, right?
So they cut off the heads of all the royalty.
Yeah. So
Roughly.
a lot of the army was most of the people.
Robespierre, is that something?
Yeah,
to do with it?
he was a bit of a revolutionary nutter, but there were quite a few around at the time.
Okay.
Most of the professional army officers in the French army were aristocratic, and after the revolution, they either headed off or were headed off.
Their heads were off.
And then you had a bit of a brain drain in the French army, so you had nobody to lead it. So basically, it became, to some extent, a meritocracy, and you got people who knew what they were doing, got promoted through talent, and that's how Napoleon came to prominence, along with a lot of the guys who ultimately became marshals when he became emperor.
If you're a country and suddenly you've got like this big revolution of the people taking over and chopping their heads off all the nobility, how does the military carry on? What's driving the French military to need a meritocratic leadership, management model?
Well, they need somebody to run. They need people to lead the armies. You see,
were they always at risk of being invaded by everybody anyway?
Yes, because Prussia and Austria invaded in 1792, and the French army had to stop it. Now, they were obviously outnumbered, and they called lots of enthusiastic peasants to the colours. But of course, these guys weren't drilled. Most of them weren't armed. A lot of them weren't even properly dressed, and that led to the initial division between what's known as the Blues and the Whites. The Whites being the traditional regiments who could march in line and shoot their muskets, and the Blues being the hordes of peasants who would just charge at the enemy. They'd lose half of them, but they're only peasants anyway.
This is kind of like a revolutionary version of the foundation of Israel, in that someone goes, "Ta-da, we're a new country," and then the neighbours invade them because they're just not really keen on that. So the Prussians and the other guys were whoever the other one,
Austrians.
Austrians. I can't believe they're not Germans.
The Russians as well?
No, I don't think Russians got involved to begin with.
No, not until later.
So they all pile in to try and. Did they have a king in waiting, or would they just want to take it over?
Yeah, there was
royal families.
With I think the king, there were some aristos who would have put somebody on the throne from the old dynasty. Someone would have
put their hand forward for the job, wouldn't they? I guess.
Yeah, but basically they were seen off the Battle of Valmy, and that kind of saved France. And then the wars continued.
Where's Valmy? Is that near?
Somewhere in eastern France.
Right. Okay.
Northeast of Paris.
Northeast of Paris.
That was 1792.
So if you're coming from Austria, how do you end up there?
You were coming. It was a Prussian army coming from the Low Countries, advancing on Paris.
Right. So the Prussians were in the Low Countries. So the Prussians were Dutch.
Well, if you start off in Prussia and you go into Paris, have a look at the map.
Right. Okay. So Prussia, where is Prussia then? Because it's not there anymore, is it?
Prussia at that point was in two places.
In two places, of course.
Yeah.
Make it simple.
You had East Prussia, which was pretty much Poland and Lithuania.
Okay.
Well, it's now Russia, really, isn't it? Kaliningrad and stuff. Yeah.
Have you ever enjoyed a Wurst in Berlin?
Brandenburg, Prussia.
Yes, Wurst. Yes.
You were in Prussia.
Northeast Germany.
Right.
So Berlin.
There's Berlin. Those people with the sausages and the pointy hats and things like that, they all had a go. The Austrians came and helped them. The French stopped them somewhere through sheer revolutionary fervour and some old posh people who could march in line, who had not got their heads cut off. And then the French ended up with a meritocratic army as a result.
It did take some time, but the wars became more general, and basically by about the mid 1790s, it was basically became a turf war for Central Europe mainly.
So who else piled in? But were they
you've got all these various coalitions, and various times there was different people involved. Now Napoleon was an artillery captain,
now I'm just wondering if the arrival of Napoleon might, now I'm understanding this, so might be the point to say this is our first tranche, because it sounds like there's a lot happened. So if I'm going back, so we've got French Revolution, Bosh, everybody loses their heads.
Period about the French state, the new French Republic surviving the period of its initial instigation, decapitation of the king,
Yep.
revolutionary fervour. The first section is where everybody else, all the other kings in Europe go, we're not having this.
Right.
The English funding it, the Austrians, the Prussians, and everybody else are supplying the soldiers. And the French survive in northern Italy. Then they start to go slightly more on the offensive in Italy against the Austrians. I'll come back to Andy.
So the Austrians are in Italy then, right?
Yes.
So we've got the French state. It's been invaded by some Austrians and some Prussians who want to change a king, and then the Austrians and Prussians, it all goes a bit wrong, and then there's some French in that northern bit of Italy that speaks Savoy.
Yeah, that happens a bit later on. Yeah,
That's their survival period, but then they start to go more on the offensive in Italy against the Austrians.
Yeah.
Tim,
the Austrians-
in answer to your question, who joins in? Basically, everyone does.
Everybody. But
The,
was there
the French
a
Republic says, "Come and have a go if you think you're hard enough." Everybody thinks they're hard enough, and it kicks off all over the place.
But was there a point at which, being sort of vaguely technical, that everybody having a go were going, because we want to restore a monarchy in France, and of course it'll be favourable to us because that's the way this sort of thing sort of works.
Yeah.
Or did it suddenly turn into, actually, they're on their knees, let's just have a bit of it, and let's nick some of it for
Well, no,
ourselves?
it started off with restore the monarchy, and it turned into the Republic kind of winning. So the Republic thinking, we'll have some of this, let's see what we can grab. France
Okay.
started going forwards rather than being defensive.
So we've got the Prussians, the Austrians, they're at a bit of a go, and then who else is nearby? What, the Dutch, the Spanish, is that a thing?
Yeah, the British.
The British, where? So and we're
Well,
up
the
to
British-
what sort of what year are we up to?
We're
here?
kind of 1793, 1794. This is where Napoleon comes to prominence because the British support a royalist attack on the port of Toulon, which is where the French Navy is. And the
And
British,
that's in the south of France, then, isn't it?
yes, yeah. So the Brits turn up there with a force to try and besiege, take Toulon. You know,
What, is
nick
this
whatever
a
ship they
land
can.
warfare or is this naval
An
stuff?
amphibious invasion, right?
An amphibious invasion of Toulon by the British in 1793.
Yeah.
Supported
Really?
by local royalists.
Yeah.
So did they just sail from Portsmouth in a load of ships and stuff?
Sean Bean in it. He's actually that's the other one, not Sean Bean. It's the other one. The
Hornblower.
yeah, the Hornblower.
Zachary Peck.
So they sail from Portsmouth, let's say, all the way round through Gibraltar, and then up to Toulon to think
Probably.
Toulon is the obvious place to invade.
Yeah.
And we'll start there. And by the
And then
time they get there, there's some French people there waiting for them.
Well, they managed to take the port, and then the French managed to hem them in. And then
Did they
there's a
get down there on the
siege.
TGV by then? I guess they've got internal supply lines and it's much quicker.
Yeah, that's probably
Possibly.
the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they so there's a siege, and it's not going anywhere because they can't starve the British out because the British have got sea supply.
Right.
So Napoleon is at this stage an artillery captain, is fairly low down the food chain, but he managed to get himself put in charge of all the artillery guns at Toulon, and finds ways of putting them in clever places to start shooting at the British ships, and the Brits don't like that, and ultimately he causes the Brits to clear off, and then they promote him to brigadier and sort of start taking notice of what he says.
Okay.
And after that, there was a attempted counter-revolution in France in 1794. And Napoleon sorted that out by firing his cannons at the revolutionary people in Paris, and then they gave him an army command in Italy.
And that sounds like a perfect place to end this first episode. Then, so we've got the whole origination of the war. It actually starts with Sid James and cutting people's heads off, and that's all good. And then by the end of that, we've got Napoleon with a big battery, which is another thing that I do know already about the Napoleonic Wars. And he's suddenly been promoted in them. So I now understand why it became a meritocratic army. I'm still slightly hazy on why Toulon would be the chosen point of invasion for the
Because
British.
it's got some ships you can nick if you're the Royal Navy. You think, oh, here's the French fleet. It's not very well defended. We'll have some of that.
I believe there was also a royalist uprising there that they went to support.
Yeah, there was sort of. Yeah,
And who was
there
the
was a few
British
places
king?
where
Who was the
royalists
British king
tended
at this time? Or who was running
to.
Britain?
George III.
George the Third. And okay.
And it was William Pitt that was running the country.
William Pitt, the younger or the elder?
Younger, I think.
Younger. Okay, that's it. Fantastic. So, and just one final thing. So we've talked about the British, the Prussians, the Austrians. Other people. Was there anyone else significant?
Spanish, Sardinians.
Spanish,
Probably.
Portuguese,
Portuguese.
various German states. Russia.
So Germany wasn't even a country by then. It was
No,
just bits and
definitely not.
bobs.
It was about 39 different princedoms, I think.
Okay,
Württemberg, Saxony.
and that's why there's so many flags.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's loads
Got
and
it.
loads of miniature little German states.
Württemberg,
Uh,
Brunswick.
Baden.
Baden-Baden,
Hesse.
Baden-Baden. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was still.
At the end of the 30 Years' War and a bit of a continuation of that.
Right. And so does that mean the Swedes and the Danes and stuff, or were they just exhausted and they didn't bother?
That's another story.
Okay, we'll come to that another week. Brilliant. All right. Thank you very much. A very interesting first episode. Okay, then we're now into the list building, or the slightly refined list building part of the podcast, in which we've honed down successfully last week our sprawling 2-hour epic ramble into 2 different ways of picking out our random list. And this week's random list was the very popular number 128, the Nikephorian Byzantines, one of the powerhouse lists, the if you're going to do Byzantines, you do Byzantines, and you do this one list. And this time we've got both Adam and Simon have pulled together lists for us. And first up is Adam with his Nikephorian list. So Adam, if you want to run us down what's in each command, how you see this list going, and what you think your tactics are, and explain, this list for us, please.
Okay, I'll start off with the thinking behind it, because I think this is an army that probably does better at 300 points than 200, because it's got the elite cavalry bow impact stuff, which is very expensive, but it's also got the heavy spear bow, which is 9 point each. I mean, at 200 points, if you go for a bit of both...
They're 10 points, Adam, the spear bow.
Sorry?
The spear bow guys are 10 points.
Yeah, spear bow 10.
You can have 9 of them.
So it's quite expensive as well. And if you go for a bit of them as well as a bit of the very expensive cavalry, I was thinking you end up with not enough of either. So I made a choice of, was I going to go with the foot, with the spear and bow, or was I going to go with cavalry? And I decided to go with the foot, because firstly, you've got to have 3 of them, and 3 on their own is a bit useless. But secondly, if I wanted to go with the cavalry, you could go with the earlier list, the thematic, with the tagmatic cavalry. So I thought, okay, I'll go with the foot-based idea.
With the special troop type this army has. Go with it, yeah.
Yeah. And I also did my best to avoid the interesting toys that it gets, because it gets cataphracts, it can have some artillery, and they're lovely, and I kind of want them, but again, at 200 points, I just thought, no, that's kind of not happening. So the first command, there's 4 of the mixed heavy spear bow, 2 Varangian mercenaries, which are heavy swordsman, 2-handed weapon, and then 3 light infantry javelin, and 1 light infantry bow. And that command's job is to occupy space, go forward and shoot. It's going to chew up anything mounted that it faces. But I put the Varangian mercenaries in as well to beef it up a little bit against foot armies or big foot commands. But that command was to occupy the space. The 3 light infantry javelin, one thing about this list, Nikephorians, is they don't really get rough terrain troops.
No, not at all, really. Yeah.
So I maxed out on the whole 3 light infantry javelin, and any terrain that I took was probably going to be difficult. Steep hills, where they can sit on hills, and they can actually be quite tough, because they're not worried about the terrain. So that's that command. The other 2 commands are identical. They've each got 2 of the tagmatic cavalry, which is heavy cavalry, impact bow elite. They've got 2 of the mixed units again, and a light horse each. And their job against mainly mounted armies is to do one of 2 things. If they're on the flank that's got a skirmishing hold you off command, one of those commands isn't going to be skirmished out by a skirmish command. It's going to go forward and chew it up, and that skirmish command either runs away or dies. But it sort of like opens up the flank quite quickly. And if it's facing a lot more mounted troops, it's actually not too bad at slowing it down, because the 2 heavy spear bow can kind of stand there. And again, not be too scared. And the cavalry's job is to make sure the enemy don't quickly get onto the flank.
No, I do like those heavy spear bow units in combination with cavalry, because they are just being heavy infantry. They are just tougher than any cavalry. And I think in this period, you're right. There's a lot of mounted armies, and you're putting out an awful lot of shooting there. You've got like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You've got 16 shooting units. No, actually, no, 18 shooting units out of 20. So that's a lot of arrows, a lot of javelins going in anybody's direction. And you've gone straight brilliant all the way through for the generals as well, which is a lot of command points. But
it did, because I went with that, because I started off, and what I tend to do with armies is I put each general down as competent, just to put something in, and then I can go up and down from there. So you can either save points or spend points from there. But when I did the army with all these units, so it looked like this, it came to exactly 191 points. And I thought, oh, what shall I do with the remaining 9 points? And I could get something like a medium cav bow, or I could get 3 brilliant generals to make sure I always had the command points to do what I wanted to do. And I couldn't see anything better to do with them those 9 points than do it, because the 2 mixed commands, one, there's foot and there's mounted, so they kind of always need separate points. And the bigger command, the skirmishes are kind of like a separate unit as well. So for the initiative and trying to make sure you attack, and for the always just not running out of pips, 9 points I actually thought was a bargain compared to what else I could spend the points on.
Yeah, because that's one of the things we talked about Peter's list last week, or my criticism of it was that possibly the command was a bit light to move the heavy foot up with the mounted, but with brilliant generals with all of those, you've got a good chance of pushing them forward. I guess it's whether it's grunty enough to really take on anybody else's proper foot. But with just those 2 Varangians as the real proper combat troops, do you see that command in the middle as being one that holds back and you're pushing on the sides, or are they just pushing up along the line and doing? Is there a standard deployment for it? Maybe that's the question.
Well, there's I suppose there's 2 standard deployments against a mainly mounted army. The foot command goes in the middle, and you just push forward and shoot. And I think any opponent's mounted army is going to struggle, because it's just going to be an arrow storm, and they can't even ride through the arrow storm and ride me down because of the heavy spear. So against a mounted army, it would be. Against a predominantly foot command, maybe the same, but it holds back while I try to pick apart the flanks. Or even if there's, if I can get a steep hill on a flank, the foot command goes on the side with the javs on the steep hill and holds back, while the 2 commands with the 4 elite cavalry try to pick apart a flank and roll it up. Or even with all the command points, that elite cavalry, you can sort of like try and shove it into a weak bit of the enemy foot line, because it's not going to be sort of like really, really solid. So you get the choice of either putting them in the place you want to be where they can ride through, or getting them together so they can gang up and ride round. But against a predominantly foot army, this army will struggle more than against a mounted army, but that's just going to be the case.
Okay. Dave, I think this is an army you're looking at, or you've looked at a few times, isn't it, or played with. What are you scratching your head looking at this one, or just going nodding? Or
I think I'd say Adam remembers watching me getting thumped by somebody in Bournemouth who used a lot to the Scutard toy. So I
subconsciously that might be a thing.
So I think the Lightfoot javelin and the Lightfoot bow holding down a wing of difficult terrain is a brilliant idea. I see that as being Clive's trick, actually. Clive uses the Byzantine army. That's what he does. He has like a wood, a forest.
Okay.
Like an ambush of the javelinmen and the Lightfoot in there, and you'll never get through that. So that can hold down one wing. I think my only criticism, if there is any, I mean, I like the idea of having the heavy cavalry impact bow elite working with the scutatoi. I would treat the scutatoi as bowmen to shoot. So against a mounted army, I think this is very, very good. I would probably downpower the generals slightly and take more of the tagmatic heavy cavalry.
And that's a fair comment, and I sort of like try to do them sums, but if I downpower them all to competent, I get 9 points. That's not even one tagmatic cavalry.
It is an expensive army, and the tagmatic cavalry are expensive troops.
And taking them down to ordinary, you would really struggle commanding these commands with just ordinary generals.
Well, Adam, what you could do, Adam, is if you reduce the generals by each and take away one of the scutatoi, you can get an elite cavalry and a light infantry unit, so you actually get more units.
Is there any more light infantry allowed, those, or is it maximum?
Yeah, you can
3?
have up to 3 of each.
You can have more bow or sling.
More light infantry bow and sling.
You could have 8. You could have 8 light infantry altogether if you wanted.
All the famous staff slingers, I guess they would be, wouldn't they? That classic figure from 6th edition days that seems to have disappeared. Okay. All right. Well, look, I think Simon, we will unmute you and come to you next on your version of this, which is different but similar, I guess. So talk us through. You've got one less unit, you've got one less initiative, which is a slightly odd mix. Your generals are slightly downgraded, which means you must have some pokey stuff there. But talk us through your thought process on this one.
So when I was looking through the army list, I was thinking, what would be the pretty troops to use in this army, and what would deliver a great big punch in period? So I thought, start with the scutatoi in the middle as the just a bit of a foot soldier commands. You've got 4 of those, the heavy spear bowmen, and they get shielded by some of the light foot, so they can just wander around and annoy people. But then on both flanks, you've got 2 quite tough mounted wings. So on one flank, you've got 4 of the heavy cavalry, the tagmatic cavalry. They're all elite heavy cavalry impact bow, so they're going to annoy anybody with a brilliant general, and they've got a light cavalry to go as well. So you've got that one unit is 6 wide, everything shoots, 4 of which are elite, and then on the other flank you've got 2 more of the tagmatic cavalry, again being elite, and another light horse. But just to line it up with the infantry, because then you can see other people would have heavy infantry armies in this period. I put 2 of the big elite cataphracts in there as well, just to, if someone does park an infantry unit in front of you, like a heavy swordsman, something along those lines, you can introduce them to a cataphract and see how things go. So that was a simple thought of everything in the army, other than the 2 cataphracts, shoots.
Yeah.
And any light foot who come up to annoy the heavy spearmen, which some people might do, you've got enough light skirmishers to go and deal with them. Or if you get, like Adam was saying, like a forest or a hill, a gentle hill with a field on top of it, you could park 4 light infantry inside that. 4 wide is going to give you a fair bit of coverage as well. You've got 19 element wide army, of which almost everything shoots. So it could annoy someone, or I could be packing up and going to the pub very quickly.
Yeah, no, it's got a very similar mix of troops to Adam's one. I guess the cataphractoi, the cataphracts, they do the same thing. They fulfill the same function as the Varangians in a slightly different way. They're similar sort of points. They can take on infantry, but they're probably a little bit better against most Imperial mounted, being elite. And then that just gives you 4 highly mobile, 4 mobile punchy troops on each flank, whereas Adam had 2 punchy troops and 2 slightly slower shooty troops on each flank. But then your centre is just doesn't have the staying power. I guess. Is this because you're in the process of painting up Chinese troops, but I'm just wondering if these heavy spearman bowmen is a troop type you've used in medieval bowmen is a troop type you've used in medieval armies and stuff, or have you seen them?
Yeah, I've been on the receiving end of heavy spear bowmen or pikeman bowmen, and they're one of those troop types where when they work, they are brilliant. But when they don't work, all you do is swear about them. So I remember at warfare last year, I ran up against one of the Burgundian French armies. So he had this combination of heavy spear bowmen, a longbowman, and I just could not get into these things. You know, all they did was outshoot me, outdice me, beat me, and took apart my entire flanks. Yeah, other times I've seen them. You know, you charge them with a knight or a heavy cavalry impact. You hit them because they're mediocre and melee. You go through them in turn one. You pop out the other side. Go, well, that was interesting. So,
yeah, because I played. I think the last time we were in Patras, they had a themed competition. There was quite a few people who had these Nikephorian sort of Byzantine armies, and I think I had the Ghaznavids at the time, and basically whenever I saw a block of Scutatoi, I just thought that's a target for the Death Star, and I'll let the one or two light infantry in front of it get shot to bits, and then the Death Star will hit it, and I'll just take them off the table. So it just became a real target, and it was a struggle for people to get the cavalry in. But I guess you've got more poke on the outside to squeeze that in, but you're trading off that central command having a little bit less staying power.
Yeah, because I did look at the Russian ally that Adam went for to have the two heavy swordsmen as well, because I'm a big fan of a guy with a big sword walking around with the spearmen going. If you're hard enough,
they're mercenaries, aren't they? Not an ally, but they're mercenaries. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, integral mercenaries and all that, and they're quite cool. But again, as Adam was saying, this is one of those armies where you just don't get enough points.
Yeah.
And we have seen a few of them, like the Ottoman Turks are as well. At 200 points, they're not bad. You know, you've got to work really hard at them. But 300 points, they really sing. And we've seen some armies where at 300 points, they work really well. And other ones just don't work any better because you just get a few more units. And so,
All right, Dave, again,
you were talking about Patras. In Patras, we saw, I think the Greek players we play use this a lot. It's a very favourite army of that period. It's one of my favourite armies in historical terms. I mean, quite a few of them use the Russian ally, an actual ally.
Yeah.
So that was cheap, and that was the go forward in the centre to pin. I mean, it doesn't kick out so much shooting, but it saved you points. I like Simon's list because there's 6 of the Tagmatic cavalry who are brilliant. I think the cataphracts are really good to support the Scutatoi, but I think I'd drop the cataphracts and go. I'd even probably take a couple of medium cavalry bow to work with the Tagmatics, so just mass the cavalry shooting in that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got a dislike of the Scutatoi. I think the Scutatoi work if they're massed and you treat them as bowmen.
But this list has got them a bit more massed, hasn't it? Because I don't know. I find that maybe it's just the experience of using those sort of pseudo Scutatoi in the Ghaznavid list, that the times I found that a block of 2 or 3 seems to be the optimum number. 3 puts out so much shooting that it makes it almost impossible for mounted to get in, and they can really, really support your mounted with creating a sort of 12 centimeter wide piece of mobile terrain that people don't even want to get near. Whereas 2 with just 2 dice shooting, you can sort of have a go at them, but 3 seems to be the magic number. But whether you're using them in support, it's an interesting one. So
I've seen where I've seen armies where you've got just the 2, you can pull them apart because you can always get around them. But I've seen especially some of the Chinese armies where you've got even if they're 3 in 2 commands and they work together as a tag team, all of a sudden you've got 6 wide potentially. And if you have a gap in the middle, you've got 7 to 8 wide of it shoots, and it's reasonably tough in combat. It's a fair bit of width on your table you've lost. You can deny quite a lot of the table with that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair shout, isn't it? Okay, all right. Well, look, I think let's flip these two back up on screen. So we've got, this is Simon's, and then we've got Adam's list here. So if I run along the screen then, Andy, what's your thoughts over the two? If you were,
I prefer Simon's list, because I think firstly, having 4 Tagmatic cavalry in one command makes them a good mounted attacking command. I don't think Adam's command is configured to attack anybody seriously, because I think I don't think the Scutatoi are good for attacking people with. I don't think having only 2 cavalry per command gives you enough oomph when attacking. And what I like particularly about Simon's is well, 3 things. Number one, in the centre lot, you've got 4 Scutatoi, so even though they're not the best attacking troops, they dish out a lot of firepower to deter people who might otherwise want to attack them. Your 4 Tagmatic cavalry will be a decent attacking option. I like the idea of having 1 shooty guy, foot guy with them to support them. And in the other one, I think the cataphracts can lean into the centre and support the infantry if they need to. And if not, they're no worse at hand-to-hand combat than the medium cavalry bow, which Dave was suggesting. So if I was to, somebody said, right, use one of these armies in a battle, I'd much prefer to use Simon's list.
All right. Okay. Well, next up along Tamsin, what's your thoughts? This is Simon's. That's Adam's.
I've got mixed opinions about what. I'd probably go somewhere in between the two. Actually, I think Simon putting Simon's wing with the 4 Tagmatic cavalry is something which I would have in my list. I might have dropped the Scutatoi from that and had sort of more from that wing and had 2 light horse, light cav there. I think in the centre on Simon's list, that's where it comes. I think I'm not sure 4 is going to deny enough width. So I'd probably have a stronger infantry centre there, and maybe not have the cataphracts on the other one. So
isn't that basically Adam's list? Almost to make a stronger infantry centre. And
one of the wings one of the cavalry wings having more Tagmatic cavalry, possibly drop the. So if it looks at Adam's list, possibly drop the Varangians.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah, but then
that's starting to make it a very different thing, isn't it? I guess it's which one of these two is closer if you're picking them, because
Simon's is closer.
Simon's is closer. Okay, and because it's just got. Because you're not convinced by the Varangians, and you like that. Everybody seems to like that 4 Tagmatic cavalry is the big attraction. I think.
Yeah,
it's a hammer. I don't think it's a real hammer in Adam's army.
Enough cavalry. It's enough.
It's enough
there to be a significant threat.
Okay, all right, Dave. You on the end of the line. What's your thinking?
I take Adam's list because it's 20 and not 19.
Right.
I think numbers is a bit of a key here, and I like the 3 brilliant generals is really fascinating. That could be quite fun.
Yeah, initiative 4 is huge, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, basically, I think you were going to set yourself up to maybe even defend in mountains there. So you do get that pinning 1 wing down and go for lots of movement. I'd go for that.
Yeah, I think. Again, it's such a because it's such a small list. You can get focused on wanting to make 1 or 2 changes, or even one unit change is still quite significant to do it. So I think that's possibly why I'm sort of with you, Tamsin, in that it's not quite there. I think I'm probably with Adam's list to use it just because I like those blocks of Scutatoi with the cavalry, but I can't help looking at this and just thinking there's just not quite those 2 balance commands. There's maybe just too many Scutatoi. I think if there was a way of making one of those commands for heavy cavalry impact bow and dropping the 2 Scutatoi out of one of them, it would it would be doing one of the things we talked about last week about giving you a more obvious way of playing. So make one of them the going forward one of the supporting command, and then the command in the middle is that CNC's command with the spearmen and the Vrankins is absolutely fine.
But the problem there, Tim, is
Yeah.
what you're getting into is it's better at 300 than 200.
No, exactly. You know, I think I am still going with your list. It's just because it's such the challenge of this list is you are really playing with small margins here, and normally with a lot of other lists you go making one unit change, you know, it makes no odds, it's still the same. But I think with this one, because you're playing with so many small high quality pieces, you feel more compelled to think about swapping one of them out. But I think I would still end up going with Adam's list as well. So I think that's me and you, Dave. Tamsin, which one were you were?
Simon's is probably
you were Simon's.
My place.
You were Simon's. So we don't have a tiebreaker in the form of Peter this week. So that is a 50-50 split straight down the middle. Fair's fair. Excellent. All right then, Simon. So you're the man on the computer this time. Can you go on to random.org, type it in, and then we'll see which list we come out of the 216. I'll do my keyboard effect now.
List 194, Fatimid Egyptian.
Fatimid Egyptian. That's a proper interest. There's a lot in that.
Yeah, isn't there?
Right,
Just it's got an entire page of things. Whoa.
No, that's a proper list. Good pick.
Yeah.
Good pick from random.org. So let's have a look. So I've not had a go at this yet, and I think Andy and Tamsin. It's me and you that Tamsin. Okay, Tamsin's volunteered. So myself and Tamsin will have a go next week on Fatimid Egyptian, and we can get the other 5 people taking a view on it. All right, something to look forward to.
This means war.
So this week then, as something we started last week, some of us are actually drifted into some gaming. Now, which was a bit of a first. Some of it was online, some of it was on tabletop. And I think it's fair to say that the advent of Tabletop Simulator has got some of us kind of keenly interested. Now, Peter's not here this week, but I did play a game against him earlier this week as a bit of a test for it, and some of you guys sat in, and we've really started to get the hang of moving units around and shoving them around on Tabletop Simulator in Art of the Guerre. And then I think so Andy, me and you played a game on a couple of days ago, wasn't it? I think it was on
yesterday, actually.
Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. Sunday morning. And this was you'd had a kind of a browse of Tabletop Simulation, a bit of messing around, but this was the first proper game. So you know, how did you find it? You know, other than
it sucked because I lost.
It sucked because you lost. Okay.
No, it was actually well, with your help in terms of the mechanics of moving things and having discovered the right way of wheeling troops, I think it worked reasonably well. So apart from the tactile experience of moving bits of paper on the bits of metal on the tabletop, you got essentially the experience of an ADLG game. And what I was quite impressed was that we started about 10:15 and finished by 1, so it wasn't that much longer than a real game, even if you the full time.
Yeah, learning interface. I think we did about 5 or 6 turns before one of the armies expired. And and I think it was the same as when I played Peter. Actually, you start off focusing on the mechanics of the tabletop computer game thing, and then you just end up playing the game. But I think learning how to wheel blocks of units quite simply was a real kind of game changer. And then there's a few bits where the units bump into each other and knock each other over. But as a game, it was interesting. So you had Carthaginian, and it was a kind of, I think it might have been, was it the list that you talked about the other week when we talked about Hannibal? Yeah, it's exactly that, with a really solid elite and armored heavy infantry block in the middle, and then you had a Death Star on, as it turned out, on your left. Death Star command.
Death Star Light, basically, as it turned out.
Death Star Light, and then quite a lot of elite cavalry on the right hand side. Yeah. And then I kind of matched off against the cavalry with an Armenian ally, because I was taking Triumvirate Roman. So I'd got, I think, 3 cataphracts and and a couple of medium cavalry, a couple of light horse on facing off against the cavalry command. My centre was 5 legions, 2 elite, 2 ordinary, 1 mediocre, and a cavalryman just to faff around. And then my Death Star command up against yours, we had a mediocre elephant off, which was a game of skill.
Quality, proper quality.
I think at one point both of them were fighting each other, and both had enemy troops in their own flank.
Yeah.
So whoever...
I cocked up because the light infantry I moved off to the flank was the one in front of the elephant, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have moved one of the other ones.
Yeah, that left them a bit exposed. But
I didn't notice it on the real tabletop, but on the computer, the penny didn't quite drop until it was too late when you started shooting at the thing.
No, and then I think there was a point at which these 2 elephants were fighting each other, and whatever happened in terms of elephant rampage, if either of them died, there was a greater chance they damaged their own troops than there was that greater chance they damaged the enemy than that they damaged their own troops. They were
they were both adjacent to 2 enemy units, I think, weren't they?
Yeah, both completely surrounded. And but I think in the end, my slightly bigger Death Star command, I think I had 2 gladiators, 2 Thracians, and the Theroporoi was just a bit wider than yours, and the gladiators struggled to fight their way through your light javelin in the difficult terrain, but eventually kind of ground them down and rolled it up. And the slog in the middle was a real slog between elite armored infantry on both sides, but nothing really happened quite quickly enough. And I think those 3 Armenian cataphracts got a bit into your infantry and then came back and had a little nibble at your cavalry. But it was really the Death Star command falling over that tipped your army over the edge before mine in that.
I think you're right there.
Combat. Yeah, that was it.
You see, the beauty, the Hannibal in Italy option, the advantage for your infantry for the Carthaginians is, firstly, you can take it as impact rather than impetuous, and secondly, you can have 5 of your 6 frontline infantry as armored.
Yeah, and that was super tough. It was. But I think we talked about it afterwards, and I think because they were fighting elite armored legions, that was always going to be a battle that was going to last forever. And you had the edge on it because you had more troops and they were better, but they didn't get into combat quick enough, and the flanks got into combat first. And by the time you were starting to get the upper hand in the middle, the flanks had kind of
things are happening elsewhere, which changed the battle. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Adam,
can I just say?
Yeah, go on.
You've been sort of like talking about what happened in a game. You started off by saying, we tried this new online computer ADLG, the thing. The way you were talking about the game, if I didn't know you were talking about playing it on the computer, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
Which is probably a good comment on how good the software setup is, because you were just talking about it like you were playing it on the tabletop.
Yeah. All the computer does, it gives you the forum for playing it, essentially. When you actually play, your moves and your die rolls and all the rest of it are done exactly the same as you would. The computer doesn't do any of that apart from allows you to roll a die and physically move the bits. But all the decisions you make and all the outcomes are based on not on computer programming, but what you would do if you were playing a face-to-face game.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know about you, Andy, but towards the end of the game, or it's my second game, you find that there's a few things in it which are actually almost better than the real game in some ways. I think I ended up, first of all, I started looking at the top-down view much more often, rather than the isometric view, because there's kind of 3D models of individual figures and things like that you can look at, which is lovely. But then at some point you do kind of get into looking at it as a top-down game, which is slightly a bit of a waste, but that's better. And then there's a couple of tools on it. There's one where you can measure exactly accurately the distance between 2 points. So, there's a few things where we're going, can they charge? And you just grab this tool that's part of the game and pull a line between the 2 corners of the units and go, no, that's slightly out, mathematically.
Well, you didn't show me how to do that, but yes.
No, obviously not, but it was always out when you were trying, and it was always just in when I was there, so it seems to work quite well. But one day, we'll get around to that when it's useful for me.
Yeah, you've obviously found the program for the 13-inch ruler, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, slightly longer measurement sticks and things like that, which I guess you could probably do if you wanted to cheat.
Or slightly shorter.
Or slightly smarter. Yeah, pass one of those ones.
The bendy ruler.
You're out. No, you're out.
You're out.
You're out. You're not in charge, right?
You're not in. You're out. You're
this one I am.
Yeah. And I even managed to cobble together the Armenian ally for the Roman army. So someone's made a Roman army, but I kind of nicked a few cataphracts and some cavalry from the Seleucid army and dropped them in as an ally and saved.
Did you have to make a separate saved item for that, as call it an ally corps? Yeah.
I'd made the ally corps as a separate thing and saved it as an Armenian ally because cataphracts are cataphracts and cavalry with bow, cavalry with bow. So it actually worked out fine. And I think doing it in 2.5-3 hours is pretty decent as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'll speed up once we know what we're doing properly.
Yeah, exactly. I was part of me was thinking you could end up doing a competition on this, couldn't you? I think sitting in a chair and staring at a screen is enough for work, frankly. But I'm not sure I want to do that all weekend as well.
And then there's the next epidemic. We're all kitted up.
Yeah, the next step. When the next wave comes, we're all going to be ready, and we're going to have another online competition. But I think it's definitely a winner. Definitely.
The online world, yeah.
The online world. So we'll be doing
I can see myself buying it shortly.
No, I think it's like 15 quid.
15 quid, yeah.
It works really well.
I've just been lazy.
Yeah, it's a good one. Okay.
Look, if I can work it must be easy.
So Adam, you normally get in a game against the wee minions in the house. Did you manage to do that this week, or was there too much?
I played two different games. One, Wings of War or Wings of Glory, whatever it's called.
Right. Okay.
Which again is playing with children. It's brilliant. It makes them think through decisions and plan ahead. And as a game, I mean, it's a really good lockdown game because it's a good, well-designed game that you can play with people that aren't into playing toy soldiers. It's a game you can play at Christmas. If your granny gets bored of Cards Against Humanity, you can get out Wings of Glory and play that. So that's a really good fun game to play. And the other one I played was Dungeon Saga, which is
Mantic Games.
It's Mantic, Mantic Games, and it's a board game where there's tiles and you put them down and you build a dungeon, and sort of like one side plays the evil necromancer and the other side plays the 4 heroes. So very sub D&D, but again, for playing with kids, where they get to be on the same side and I get to be the dungeon master. So kind of make sure they've got to work hard but win in the end.
Yeah. Did they use some of the figures they painted up as characters, or does it not need figures?
Well, no, because the box came with all the characters you need, and I painted them up quite a while ago because they were quite quick and easy to paint. And all the little sort of 3D terrain of tables and stuff and doors I painted up, so it looks quite attractive. And it's a good game because you can play it competitively. So one side plays the good guys, one's the dungeon questers, and the other side plays the dungeon master. And you can play it as a competitive game, 2 players, or you can play it more as a traditional D&D type setup, which is what I did with children. And we've been doing that off and on for a year or 2, and we're slowly doing the scenarios until we get to the big last one. So that's that's going quite well.
Oh,
That's quite cool.
Okay. And Tamsin, did Dread another run out, or were you very busy focused on actually building more terrain for them to hide behind?
I was focusing on terrain, so I haven't had a game this week. I think of getting the gangster miniatures and terrain out tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. So now you've got the fire hydrants. They've got something to crash their cars into.
Yeah, I haven't actually used cars in a game yet.
Right, well, if you've got fire hydrants, you have to. Surely that's the whole point. Knock them over. So Simon, have you given anything a go this time at all, or?
No, just painting my 7 Years War figures. That's as far as I've got this week.
Okay, well,
I'm still waiting for that army list from you, Simon.
Yeah, my head is hanging in shame.
Yeah.
Hey, look, Goodyear blimp.
Goodyear blimp, it's all away. Good. Well, look, we're all going to be going to car showrooms next week, so that'll take up all our time, won't it, or something like that.
Sounds like haircuts are going to be in order, though.
Yeah. No, I think I'm past that stage now. I'm in a world of clippers. That's it.
I'll take your recommendations on Clipper. I'm studying.
Yeah. I think the only answer.
I'm currently designing a new game. I'm designing a new scenario for Pandemic, where the object of the game is you've got to get from London to Durham and back without being stopped by the police.
That could be another scenario indeed.
Grand Politics Auto or something.
Yeah, Grand Politics Auto. Right. Well, good. That's our gaming summary. Put up.
This means war. This means war.
and that inevitably, now we've done the gaming summary, brings us to the musical highlight, depending on, well, possibly the top 2 musical highlight, depending on what kind of music I managed to cook up for our Napoleonic section, of Andy's quiz.
Where did you find that music? Because it's brilliant.
It was some online, rights-free music, and I the quiz. It is pretty good, isn't it?
Send me the whole track. It's
Yeah,
brilliant.
I'll have to try and dig
It's
it
so
out.
bad, it's good.
Question, comment les voir? Question, le trou est sans fond. Question, la légende le dit. Question, elle dit aussi. Question, c'est une maladie. Question.
So Andy's quiz. We're on to Andy's quiz. So this week, Andy, first up, it was another animal themed thing, wasn't it? Last time there was some,
Yes, it was Beasts Other Than Dogs and Humans of War. And
Snappy.
I asked 3 questions. The first was, which nation was defeated by the Seleucids in the Elephant Battle of 279 BCE? Was it the Ptolemaic Egyptians, Galatians, or Bactrian Greeks?
I've got Tommy Warden's answers here.
right.
Go on, let's
Okay.
have it then.
So is this question 1?
Yes.
Question 1.
Is that the no, that's not. So the Seleucids had lots of elephants, and the year was 273 BC, when the Galatians lost to the Seleucids.
I think it was Galatians as well. That's the one I go for.
Galatians.
Galatians.
Correct,
Okay.
Okay, right. The second is, what was the name of the horse whom Emperor Caligula allegedly appointed consul? Was it Equitatus, Incantatus, or Incitatus?
Well, Tommy reckons, considering the Latin roots, it's Equitatus.
It wasn't. It was Incitatus.
Oh, Incitatus. I guess Nero was a bit,
Equitatus was a deliberate red herring there.
Oh.
I guess
red horse.
Nero could kind of make up whatever language he wanted, really, couldn't he? Well, he could do what he wanted.
Yeah.
Fine.
Good,
okay.
good Latin, bad history. Right.
Yep.
Which branch of the British Armed Services deployed hedgehogs when fighting the Germans in World War II?
Well,
Royal Navy.
that's the Royal Navy.
Yep.
It was a spigot mortar, forward firing.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
that
one that
weird?
fired the 24 bombs, and they only went off if they actually hit the U-boat. So if they missed, it didn't disturb the pattern for the sonar.
So did they launch the hedgehogs, or
Shot them forward, yeah.
Yeah, the 24 bombs, and if any one of them hit a U-boat, it would have bad effect on the U-boat. But if it missed, it didn't cause a big explosion, which means you lost your sonar contact, which would be the case if a depth charge or a squid blew up.
They're about 4 or 5 times more effective than depth charges.
I don't know the statistics, but you could fire them off the front of the ship. So you could fire them before you lost the contact and before the U-boat thought, right, now I need to dodge out of the way, because if the U-boat could hear you ping at him, he knew that the ship was some distance away, so that in theory it was safe until the bombs
Did
landed
this
on
come
top of it,
before
of
or
course.
after the squid?
Before.
It was pre-squid. Hedgehogs before squids. Then.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Brilliant. Well, that's that one. Great.
And then
So,
we've got the known truth.
the known truth. Yes, the extra bonus question.
Yeah, which was a revolution is an idea taken up by blank.
gnomes?
No,
Um,
the answer is bayonets.
Bayonets. Okay, that's quite a pointy answer.
Okay, right. Now this week's quiz, the theme is location, location. And I'm going to give you 3 questions comprising the name of a region and 2 years of history.
I
And
think,
the answer
Andy,
I'm looking for-
I think calling it location. I'm not sure we've got a big enough audience that the makers of the location TV series are going to sue us. I think we could possibly use the third one if you wanted. We might
No,
be able to.
no.
Just
It's
going
called
location.
Look, I've got my reasons, right?
All right.
So
okay.
I'm giving you a region and 2 years, and the answer to the quiz question is the geographical name of 2 battles which took place in or near that location in those years.
Question, comment les voir? Question, le trou est sans fond. Question, la légende le dit. Question, elle dit aussi. Question, c'est une maladie. Question.
So the first one is Eastern Europe, 1410 and 1914.
Yeah, got that.
So we need 2 battles.
I know
Yeah.
that.
Well, it was the name of a battle, name given to battles which took place in those years in that part of the world. The same name of the battle.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So a battle took place at one place twice in those.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
got you.
the same name was
Got
given to battles in 2
Battle.
different
Okay.
years.
Great. Okay.
Right.
Got it.
The second one is Central Europe, 1632 and 1813.
Right. Okay.
And the third one is North America, 1861 and 1862.
That's pretty close.
Oh, yeah.
That's Civil War, isn't it? I think. Yeah, there might have been a walking tour involved on that one.
You've been there, mate.
I think so. Yeah. So
Most of us have probably been there. Yeah. Right.
Most have been there. Brilliant. Okay. Well, that's Andy's quiz for this week then.
Question, comment les voir? Question, le trou est sans fond. Question, la légende le dit. Question, elle dit aussi. Question, c'est une maladie. Question.
Always good to have that music back. So we're getting into the end of this now. We're into the final straight. So really, it's just another quick round the table or round the Zoom screen to ask what's going to be on the painting table this week. So, Adam, if I start with you, as you said, I can see you putting together tanks as we speak. But so I'm guessing tanks. But
well, two things this week. I've prepped and undercoated these goblins I was going to do for Lords of the Rings, so they're going on. And even as this podcast has been going on, I've been putting together apparently simple to put together tanks. So some Pegasus ISUs. I'm also going to do some army trucks. And here, last from the past, a Sturmovik Airfix, because whenever I go into a model store, I look to see if there's anything on sale, and I've got this, so that's going to round out my Russian army.
I didn't even know.
And it's just sword putting them together.
I didn't even know Airfix did a Sturmovik. Yeah. And it's a sod putting them together. Yes. Okay. So that's 1/72 scale and some goblins.
Mm-hmm.
What a good connection. So, Dave, what about you? You're just praying for Egyptians. If the Egyptians don't arrive, what's on the list? Or are you just going to panic?
They're on the table. They're being completed. I'm trying to reorganise the Bisley cabinets at the moment to work out whether I actually need number 3 or not.
Shall we have a vote on that, everybody? Yeah.
Yes, he needs it.
Yes.
You need it.
Number 3, I might have to buy 4 as well.
Well, only 3 just isn't enough, mate, to be honest.
Exactly.
Yeah, because if you have only 3, you're not even, and you have to have one for left hand and one for right hand.
They're probably cheaper during lockdown anyway.
Well, that's the issue, because I've got the 9 drawer one, which has got the deeper and mixed up ones, which is very useful. That's actually next to my painting table.
No, the 15. The 15 is the secret. You need the 15s.
Well, I've got 2 of the 15s already, which are full. I think the third one is the maximum. I mean, after that, you really are buying armies for the sheer pointlessness of it.
I just feel sorry for
what's
the
your
poor
point?
bloke.
I resemble that comment.
Then you are getting to Central American
Nonsense. Yeah.
people and things like that. Mind you, I mean, saying this, I'm only talking ancients here. I'm not talking, World War II or, really getting into Napoleonics or anything like that. So.
No, I must admit, I'm looking at my 15 drawer one here, and there's 10 mil American Civil War, there's Second World War, 15 mil stuff, there's some Spanish Civil War, remember that? Still some bits and bobs of that in it. There's still some stuff I've not painted for a long time, as well as all the ancients and the Renaissance as well. So
the 9 drawer one I've got next to my painting table has got 2 drawers which are just lead for painting at some point. So,
so it's storage as well. Okay,
exactly.
So it's reorganisation.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to paint this week.
You're going to paint your little castle.
The castle keep thing.
I remember him.
Yeah.
Plastic castle keep from
Bowie.
Alicante.
Alicante.
Yes.
Javier made these and gave everybody one of these. So I've actually I've undercoated it. So I think I might have to give that a go just for a laugh. And it's on a 40 by 8.
It's on a base anyway. Good.
And if you like, I can send you some of the castle guard figures from the Monty Python and the Holy Grail to put up in the tower.
I think that would be a very good idea.
That'd be good. All right. Then Tamsin, I think we talked about slightly earlier. We talked about what you were looking at this week anyway. I think.
So I've got sci-fi scatter terrain to paint up. That should take me next day or two, and then sort of the Judge Dredd figures. Need to do a little bit of gap filling on them, get them primed, and then I might start painting them.
Okay. All right. And I think from my point of view, I want to try and get all of these 28 bases of Hungarian cavalry done, and then start to make a dent in the infantry as well. I think the infantry will be straightforward, apart from these horrific mystery. I have no idea what they're wearing, bowmen. But the cavalry are looking bright and cheerful at the moment, stood next to me here. So if I can get that done, and then I will think about buying another couple of packets of bits and bobs, but I might actually wade into the infantry before I put in an order from Essex, because otherwise I'll realise there's some things that I actually want in the infantry as well, and make all the whole lot consistent.
Guys, can I just check, because you keep talking about sort of like ordering stuff to paint. Have you not got a cupboard full of stuff that's waiting to paint?
That's beside the point.
So we don't
loads.
talk about
So
that.
your point is,
Yeah, but to round out an army, if you're finishing an army completely, and because this was a ready-made, I think it was a fog ready-made army from Essex, so it's got way too much of some stuff for ADLG, but it doesn't quite have the right bits for others. So I think there's some of the more obscure hairy foot that I don't even know if you really need in the army. But you think if I'm painting them all up at one go, you want them all to be consistent. So it's almost do them all in one go. And obviously I've got some figures that would work perfectly well that were painted 20 years ago that I don't necessarily want to be bothered. In fact, maybe, Simon, the question is if you could remind me what that paint stripper was that you said actually worked well and didn't stink.
Bio strip, it's called.
Bio strip. Okay.
bicarbonate of soda.
No, well,
I've got it saved in Amazon as well.
Mixed with Lucozade or something. Oh.
Yes, and cat urine. So bio strip then. So I might get some bio strip.
I use Wilco do a similar own brand.
What's it called?
All right. Okay. I will. If I can find a Wilkinson's, I'll be.
Is that just Wilco paint stripper?
Yeah, it's a sort of gloopy. It's for
And is that all right for plastics and metal?
Ooh, plastics.
the bio strip works on plastics because
I wouldn't put plastics in. I wouldn't risk plastics in it.
yeah, the bio strip does. Because I've stripped some plastic stuff, and the bases have come out intact.
Who sells BioStrip?
I've purchased it on Amazon, but I'm sure you could find it anywhere. I'll send you the details. Maybe we can put it in the show notes.
Put it on the show, yeah. We'll put it in the show notes on the podcast. Okay, so I might do BioStrip if I think that the old stuff that I've got that would round out this army would be painted so differently to this lot that it would look weird. Or I might just base up some old stuff to match the basing and see if I get away with it with that. So that's probably my focus. Andy, what about you?
Well, it seems I've been commissioned to paint some Irish plastic guys.
Oh yes, you have. Yes, we've forced you into. We've actually made that decision for you on a democratic way. And Simon, how many more units of Swedes with yellow cuffs do you think, now that you know how to paint yellow, bringing us all the way back around to the start of the podcast?
I've got 4 more grenadier units to paint, and then about another 10 or so of mounted artillery, Lightfoot, and various other troops that probably didn't need to buy, but I wanted to buy anyway.
Okay, and what's your target for next week then? Do you think it's the 4 grenadiers, or?
I think I'm going to go for the grenadiers and get them all painted, based up in banners.
Okay, that's the start. Good. Okay, well look, I think that's got us just a shade under 2 hours. By the time we edit this around, we've done a new feature. We've started to learn about. Well, I've started to learn about Napoleonic Wars. We've had some technical quiz questions, some painting. There's almost been some tips. We talked about actually playing games yet again. So thank you all for taking part and being here. Thank you for listening as well. Stay safe out there, everybody, and goodbye from me and goodbye from everyone else.
See ya.
Bye.
And the other music that you have for this means war.
Yeah, that's from Howard.
That's Howard.
So Howard down the club was in, Dave, what was the band?
So he was in Apollo 440, but he's actually
music producer, isn't he?
He's a producer.
He's a music producer, yeah.
So this was a track him and his
and things like that.
That was a track him and his buddies had created and were going to submit to be the soundtrack for the Amazon series, Sons of Anarchy, like the biker thing. But they didn't end up submitting it in the end, so he had it lying around. He said, "Do you want to use it? You know, you can have the rights to it to use it for the podcast." So I'm like, "Yes, it's pretty cool."
Come to a good home.